In the dead of night in England, 3 animal rights activists break into the Cambridge Primate Research Centre, where chimpanzees are being experimented on with videos of human anger, violence, and destruction. As the group begins taking pictures, a scientist spots them and rushes to call security. The activists intercept him just in time and restrain him. The scientist begs them not to do anything because the chimpanzees have been infected with an extremely contagious and dangerous virus called rage. However, the group did not believe the warning and released a chimpanzee. The chimpanzee immediately attacks and bites a woman in a furious rage before another chimpanzee kills it. As the other chimpanzees start going wild in their cages, the bitten woman begins vomiting blood, spraying it onto a friend's face. The scientist insists that they must kill her, but it's already too late. She turns into a zombie-like creature and attacks everyone in the room. 28 days later, Jim wakes up from a coma in a deserted hospital. He leaves his room and wanders around, searching for people but finding no one, only chaos everywhere. After grabbing a few cans of water from a vending machine, Jim leaves the hospital to explore London and finds the city in a similar state, completely deserted, with destruction everywhere. Finding a newspaper, he realizes that the United Kingdom has undergone a mass evacuation. At a large bulletin board, he sees thousands of missing person notices. Eventually, Jim enters a church, where he finds strange messages scrawled on the walls. When he reaches the main hall, he is shocked to see it filled with rotting corpses. He calls out a greeting, and immediately, a few bodies stir, looking at him with empty eyes. At that moment, the priest appeared, but he had turned into a zombie and tried to attack Jim. Jim used a bag full of canned drinks to hit the priest, but the priest was unfazed and kept chasing Jim. Jim panicked and ran away. Other zombies also emerged from the church and chased after Jim, who ran as fast as he could until he reached a gas station. Here, Mark and 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮𝓻, the survivors, began throwing Molotov cocktails at the zombies to burn them to death. When Jim reaches them safely, they throw a Molotov at the gas station to blow it up. Afterward, the pair take Jim to their hideout, an abandoned candy shop beneath London. When Jim tells her he was in a coma from a car accident, 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮 explains that it was a highly contagious virus. It continued to spread uncontrollably, turning humans into zombies and causing the collapse of British society. Most of the population is now either dead or infected with the virus. The military has been defeated, and the government no longer exists. Jim insists on checking his parents' house to see if they are safe, despite 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮's warning that they might already be dead. 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮 and Mark agree to accompany him for mutual protection during the journey the next morning. The 3 of them cautiously make their way through the desolate London and eventually reach Jim's old home. Upon arrival, Jim painfully discovered that his parents had committed suicide to avoid turning into zombies, leaving behind a note that read, "Don't wake up." As Jim cried, 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮 and Mark comforted him, telling him that he should be grateful his family died peacefully, as they had to witness their own families turning into monsters. The 3 of them spent the night at the house, but Jim couldn't sleep and decided to watch old family videos. The light he turned on accidentally revealed his location, and suddenly, 2 zombies jumped through the window to attack him. As Jim struggled to defend himself, he screamed for help, attracting Mark and 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮's attention. They immediately acted and brutally but effectively killed the 2 zombies. Afterward, 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮 checked if Jim had been bitten and made sure he hadn't been exposed to their blood. However, the one who was injured was Mark. His wound on his arm was contaminated with zombie blood. Without hesitation, 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮 used a machete to kill Mark and then announced that they had to leave immediately as more zombies would soon appear. After washing up, changing clothes and gathering the necessary items from the house, Jim and 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮 left the area. 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮 warned Jim that if anyone gets infected, they must be killed immediately, whether they are family or friends. They then saw flashing lights from an apartment nearby and decided to investigate. The building was in a state of decay, and the lobby was filled with shopping carts. However, they pushed past the carts to go up the stairs. It took climbing several floors, and as they rested, they heard the screeching of zombies that had entered the building. They too jumped over the carts to climb the stairs, so Jim and 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮 had to speed up. After climbing a few floors, they stopped when they saw their path blocked by a man in protective gear, who provided them with his room number and apartment location. He stayed behind to fight the zombies, using a shield to block them and fighting back with a baseball bat. Jim and 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮 finally reached the apartment, but the woman inside didn't open the door until the man returned safely. Once everyone was inside, Frank and his daughter, Hannah, introduced themselves and warmly welcomed the 2. This was the apartment with all the lights on, and Frank was happy that his signal had finally attracted some survivors. The next day, Frank took Jim to the rooftop and showed him the water buckets he had prepared, explaining that it hadn't rained for a long time, and resources were becoming increasingly scarce. With the current situation, they wouldn't be able to stay in the apartment much longer. Then, Frank played a continuous military broadcast for Jim and 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮, stating that the army was providing protection for survivors outside of Manchester and even promised to find a cure for the disease. Frank wanted to go there, but 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮𝓻 was skeptical, thinking it could be a trap or an old recording that was no longer accurate. 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮𝓻 gave an emotional speech and convinced everyone that it was worth the risk. The group then got into Frank's taxi to head to Manchester, bringing all the supplies they could. As they moved through London, they saw all the devastation and corpses scattered on the streets. When trying to cross a tunnel, they encountered a pile of dead bodies and crashed vehicles, but Frank decided to drive through and push them out of the way. Eventually, they managed to get past the wreckage, but the car got a flat tire in the process. When the group went outside to change the tire, they heard a strange sound and suddenly saw hundreds of rats running toward them, making them realize that zombies were getting close. With no time to use any tools further, the adults helped lift the car while 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮𝓻 changed the tire. They could see the shadows of the zombies approaching and about to jump over the wrecked cars. However, the group managed to finish changing the tire just in time and drove off right before the zombies arrived. They continued driving for several hours, and when they reached the outskirts, they stopped at a fast food restaurant to take gas from an abandoned truck. Jim, curious, decided to enter the building and discovered a dead family. Suddenly, he was attacked by a zombie child, and he was forced to kill it in self-defense. The group then continued their journey through the suburbs, which still retained its untouched beauty. When they stopped to have dinner, they observed horses running freely, indifferent to the world around them. 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮𝓻 admitted that the trip was better than she had expected and even kissed Jim on the cheek. That night, the group stayed in an old damaged castle. 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮 and Jim couldn't sleep and woke 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮 to ask her how to endure it. 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮 shared her medicine with them. The next morning, Jim woke up and realized he was alone. He panicked, but Frank woke him up, revealing that it was just a nightmare. The next day, the group continued their journey and saw Manchester burning in the distance. Eventually, they found the military checkpoint mentioned in the broadcast, but when they arrived, they only found abandoned military vehicles and equipment. 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮 thought they should leave, but Frank refused to accept defeat and continued searching. He became so angry that when he heard a crow nearby, he kicked the wallet at it to make it fly away. The crow was feeding on a zombie corpse, and as it moved, a drop of blood fell into Frank's eye. Knowing what was about to happen, he told 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮 that he loved her and asked her to stay away from him. 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮 still tried to approach him, and as the virus began to react, an angry Frank shoved his daughter away. He then stepped back as he started to transform. 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮 asked Jim to kill Frank while she held 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮 back. Jim didn't want to hurt a friend and stood still, but fortunately, they were saved by the sudden appearance of several soldiers, who shot Frank down in an instant. The soldiers then took Jim, 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮, and 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮 to a safe villa in the forest, where a few surviving soldiers had set up a new base, fortifying the place to defend against zombies. Commander Major West welcomed them and invited them to have a meal and take a shower. After they settled in, 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮 took a nap while 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮 collapsed and cried in front of Jim. Jim tried to comfort her with a kiss, and at first 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮 responded, but when she realized what was happening, she quickly left the room. Later, Jim went to see Major West to ask about the cure for the disease that the radio broadcast had mentioned. It turned out that they didn't have a cure, and West believed that his solution was the strict security measures they had set up around the villa and the supplies in the kitchen. West also revealed that he had captured a zombie soldier, who was chained in the villa's yard for research. Jim thought this was cruel, but West explained that he wanted to figure out how to make a zombie starve to death, which could be the real answer they needed. That evening, Jim's group had dinner with the soldiers, and they felt uneasy due to the rude, arrogant behavior of the soldiers. West, fully dressed in uniform, scolded a soldier for messing up the dinner. He even assumed that 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮 might take over the cooking. Suddenly, the alarm rang, causing all the soldiers to rush outside to protect the villa from a zombie attack. The soldiers quickly took positions and opened fire, killing dozens of zombies and creating large explosions with their weapons, defeating the enemy without difficulty in just a few minutes. When the soldiers returned, Mitchell tried to take advantage of 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮, prompting Jim to intervene and push him away. However, with his training, Mitchell easily overpowered Jim, and Sergeant Farrell had to step in and strike Mitchell to stop his actions. At that moment, West arrived and ordered everyone to clean up the bodies. Then, he had a private conversation with Jim, explaining that a few days earlier, he had met a soldier named Jones, who was preparing to end his life because he had lost all hope. To bring hope back, West promised the soldiers that he would bring women to repopulate the human race after killing the zombies. That's why he had broadcasted the message over the radio. Jim panicked and ran to find 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮 and 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮, trying to leave with them, but they were immediately knocked down and captured by the soldiers. Farrell tried to protect them, as he also disagreed with West's plan, but he too was captured. Jim and Farrell were locked up together, and Farrell said that the disease couldn't cross the sea, so it was likely that the rest of the world was still fine, and they were just isolating the UK to prevent the virus from spreading outside the island. Hearing this, Jim felt a glimmer of hope. The next morning, Mitchell and Jones led the prisoners to the execution ground, where they would be shot next to a pile of corpses. Farrell spoke out, criticizing them for betraying their superior, which led to an argument. Jones wanted to shoot them to end it quickly, but Mitchell wanted to stab them and enjoy the feeling. In a moment of desperation, Jones decided to shoot, killing 𝓓𝓪 but also wounding Mitchell in the arm. As Mitchell jumped on Jones to yell at him, Jim seized the opportunity to escape. When the soldiers discovered this, they began searching for Jim, but it turned out Jim had pretended to be a corpse in the pile of bodies. Jim then escaped by jumping over a wall, leaving behind his shirt. The soldiers saw this and decided to leave him, thinking he couldn't survive outside the wall with the zombies roaming. As Jim ran into the forest, he suddenly tripped and looked up. He was astonished to see a jet flying overhead, proving that 𝓓𝓪's theory about the rest of the world still being okay was true. At the villa, the soldiers wanted to put 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮𝓻 and Hannah in beautiful dresses to prepare them for a night of repopulation. 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮 tried to resist, but unsuccessfully, so she changed tactics and kissed one of the soldiers, flirting with him and asking him to give them some space to change quietly. The soldiers agreed and left the room. After they left, 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮 gave Hannah some of her medication to ease the psychological torment. However, one soldier overheard this and rushed back. But before he could do anything, they heard the alarm bell go off. It turned out Jim had reached the checkpoint and intentionally triggered the alarm. Not long after, West and another soldier arrived and began searching the area. Jim moved stealthily and ambushed the soldier to take him down. When West realized his teammate was missing, he searched around and discovered his body in the jeep. West fired his gun randomly as a precaution and then tried to leave in the jeep, but the vehicle was damaged. At that moment, a zombie jumped onto the vehicle, and West immediately shot it before getting out of the jeep to eliminate all the other approaching zombies. When everything was done, West quickly ran back to the villa. Meanwhile, Jim also returned to the villa, and with a weapon he grabbed from the jeep, he released a chain zombie, causing it to jump through the window and attack the soldiers guarding the girls. At the same time, 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮 took the opportunity to pull Hannah outside. The zombie spit blood on a soldier and began chasing Jones, the first soldier, turning him into a zombie. 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮 and Hannah tried to escape the villa, but Mitchell blocked their way. Suddenly, Jones ran through with a zombie chasing him. And Mitchell ordered a soldier to follow him, while he stayed behind to handle the two girls. Jones tried to hide in the kitchen. And when the zombie was about to attack him, Mitchell's friend appeared to shoot it but was then jumped on by a new zombie and became infected. Jim happily witnesses all these events through the window. While inside a cupboard, Jones cried because he couldn't help. After the zombies left, Jones tried to escape, but Jim found him and killed him immediately. Then, Jim entered a secret door to hide from the zombies, which had begun climbing the stairs. Upstairs, Hannah tried to escape Mitchell and entered a dressing room, where she found a photo of her father among her belongings. Hearing a zombie approaching, she quickly hid behind a mirror. The zombie is confused by its own reflection and leaves. Jim ran around the villa searching for the two girls and entered a room where he found a soldier hiding, as he had run out of ammunition. Jim ignored the soldier's pleas and jumped out of the window, leaving the soldier to be devoured by the zombies. Running across the roof, Jim spotted the room where Mitchell was preparing to assault 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮, and he entered through the window. Mitchell immediately took 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮 as a hostage, but Jim leaped in and forced him to release her before violently attacking Mitchell. Mitchell didn't have much time to resist before Jim slammed his head against the wall and then threw him to the floor to crush his eye. 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮, terrified by this act of violence, grabbed a machete and nearly killed Jim, thinking he was a zombie. However, her hesitation gave Jim the opportunity to prove that he was still alive. The two of them then unexpectedly kissed. Hannah saw this and hit Jim with a vase, also thinking he was infected. Fortunately, Jim was still fine, and the three of them immediately ran out of the building. As they approached Frank's taxi, they discovered West was inside, saying he wanted to take revenge for his soldiers. West shot Jim, but Hannah quickly reversed the taxi back into the building. The zombie that had previously been chained broke through the rear window and dragged West out to exact revenge. Hannah immediately accelerated, picking up Jim and 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮 as they exited the building, while the zombie killed West. The gates surrounding the villa were locked, but Hannah drove straight through them. Jim couldn't remember exactly what happened afterward, but he recalled 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮 performing CPR on him in the hospital and begging him to survive. 28 days later, the three of them were living in a small house in the countryside. 𝓛𝓪𝓽𝓮 tirelessly sewed large pieces of fabric. When they heard the sound of an airplane, the three of them immediately took the fabric outside, arranging it to form the giant word hello. The airplane recognized the signal and turned around to rescue them. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on other exciting videos. Thank you for watching.